Hey, what's up, guys? Run a bunch here. It's time for another installment of everyone's favorite, most under the radar sports betting, sports talk show on YouTube, the Run a Bunch Sports Show. So let's get right into it. Now, this episode is going to be a lot shorter, I think, than previous. Something I want to do, I want to start giving my picks out first for you guys that are here mainly for picks and not necessarily sports talk. So let's go ahead and get right into the picks for Wednesday night. So starting off, I'm going to start out, this is a first for this sports show. I'm actually going to give out a baseball pick. And I've tried to kind of steer away from baseball because it's spring training, so there's a lot of like weird outliers that kind of affect the outcome of these games. But there's a game tonight that I really like, and I actually have the Dodgers money line right now on DraftKings. It is minus 105 versus the Cincinnati Reds. Now, my reason for this is that so far in spring training, the Reds have been fairly mediocre and the Dodgers have been kind of decent, and the Reds are 1-3 at home so far in the spring training season. And I mean, the Dodgers, have been a contender for the last few years, and I think there's a lot of great value on this pick at minus 105. I really think they should be favored by more. I think for the value purposes of this pick, I'm going to, go with the Dodgers money line. So, very first baseball pick for this show. So hopefully it goes in our direction. Moving on, my basketball picks for tonight. I have 3 of them. Once again, the NBA is still on its All-Star break, so there is no NBA, but these are going to be 3 college basketball picks. All 3 of them are championship games in smaller conference tournament championships, so that's kind of fun. My first one for tonight is Bryant minus 5.5 versus Mount St. Mary's. Now, Bryant is 15-5 on the season. They are 12-7 against the spread. The number 2 seed in the Northeast Conference. And really, I expect them to take care of business against what has overall been an average season for, quote-unquote, the Mount. That's the Mount St. Mary's mascot. I'd probably take this pick up to about 6.5 points. Once it gets to that 6.5 range, I'd probably start veering the other way or staying away from it overall. I don't expect Bryant to blow out Mount St. Mary's because, Mount St. Mary's is average, but, an average team can keep up with, an above average team. I don't think Bryant is anything special, but I do think that they are good enough to win this tournament championship and clinch their way to a NCAA tournament berth. All right, moving on. This is going to be my lock of the day. The lock of the day is still 2-2. The Drake game this past weekend got postponed, so that does not count against us. Doesn't really count for us either. So Cleveland State minus 2.5 versus Oakland. And I think you guys have heard on the show before. I love Cleveland State. CSU is 18-7 overall this season, and they are 16-8-1 against the spread, making them one of the best teams against the spread in the entire country this season. I believe it was last week, predicted them to win this tournament on this show, said they had great value on them. And I feel like in this championship game, I almost have to back them because of that prediction. But I really like this minus 2.5. I think there's some value on that. I would really take it until it gets to about 4.5, and then I would probably steer away from it. Definitely lock this in. I think Cleveland State upsets the defending champs Oakland. So the next game is Drexel minus 3.5 versus Elon. Now, there's not a number reason for this because both teams are actually very solid against the spread this season. They're both over 500 against the spread. But to me, Drexel on paper is just the better scoring team this season. And they shoot almost 48% from the field as much as Elon shoots like 43%. And I really think that, considering they play in the same conference, they're playing against the same competition. I like Drexel to just outscore Elon in this matchup. So once again, that was -3.5. I would probably take this up to about 4.5, maybe even 5 if you're feeling good on Drexel. But once you get to that 4.5, 5 range, I'd probably start steering the other direction or away from this game. So that is my basketball picks for this evening. Moving on, I actually have one more pick for tonight, and that is going to be a hockey pick. Last time I picked hockey, we actually went 2-0, so that was pretty sweet. And once again, here I have for you, it's going to be a familiar team that we're going against here. I have the New York Islanders tonight at either +1.5 or money line versus the Boston Bruins. Now, the +1.5 doesn't really have good value, so honestly, I would recommend the money line. That is definitely where you're going to make your money. But if you're not really feeling good about the Islanders, the +1.5, I mean, you can still make money off of it. The line's actually almost on that to like -300. I think it's because the Islanders have been so good this season. They're first in their division, while the Bruins are like third or fourth in that division. The Islanders are actually, I looked it up, they are 10-1 at home on the season so far, which is actually insane for hockey to really think about it. And their one loss was against the Pittsburgh Penguins in overtime. So, and it was a 1-point loss. I mean, so they've literally covered that like +1.5 pretty much every time at home. So I think that's why the odds are so high on that. Like I think it's like -290 right now. I mean, if you're willing to put a lot of money on that, that might be the way to go. But personally, I will be putting my money on the money line. I think that the Islanders get the Bruins tonight. Now, those were my picks for tonight. I did want to do a little bit of a recap of the weekend. Overall, we went 2-0 in FCS football, which I'm pretty proud of because FCS football has been a little unpredictable this season so far. The last year's number 1 and number 2 both have been beat already this season, which is kind of surprising. You don't really expect that from those teams, James Madison and North Dakota State. But 2-0, so that was pretty cool. 2-1 overall in FCS football this year so far. Soccer, we went 1-1-1. The tie-no bet that I had this past weekend, Atletico Madrid, that was voided because they did end up tying, so that was a pretty, safe bet, I guess. And then we went 1-1 with Juventus being the win and Frankfurt being the loss, I believe. And I believe in basketball, we also went 1-1 because the lock of the day, like I had mentioned earlier, that game got canceled. Northern Iowa didn't have enough players or something. They had to forfeit, so Drake moved on from that game without having to actually play. So that was good for them, I guess. So 1-1 basketball on Friday. So that was pretty much the weekend. Not really good, but not bad either. A lot of 500 stuff. I guess the FCS football is really the only thing to be proud of, but it just kind of is what it is. Better than a lot of people, but worse than some. So that's kind of how it's been on this show so far. I kind of feel bad for keeping you guys around 500, but that's just kind of how it's been since I've started this show. I haven't really been hitting as many 5-0 nights. So maybe I'm either off my A game or I don't know. Maybe the show isn't as lucky as I was thinking it might be, but that's okay. Still gonna bring you guys good content. I'm having a lot of fun still making these videos. I'm definitely excited for the March Madness tournaments coming up. I know coming up tomorrow, the NBA will be back, so hopefully we'll have an NBA pick or two. And the major conferences are starting their tournaments tomorrow. The Big 12, the SEC, the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big East, the Conference USA, the Big Ten. All of them are starting their first rounds tomorrow. So there's going to be some average to below average teams playing against each other, which means some tight spreads, which means some good betting. So there will be an episode tomorrow, to appreciate all those wonderful lines that we're going to get. So yeah, guys, we're going to wrap it up just about the 10-minute mark. I wanted to keep today fairly short. I'm going to try to shorten up these episodes for you guys. I'm actually thinking about making these episodes strictly for the picks and maybe going in a podcast direction in terms of, just the sports discussion. Let me know what you guys think about that. And one final thing, make sure to comment your guys' Final Four picks for March Madness coming up. Do that starting with this episode and the episodes to come before the Final Four. And I'm actually going to do it's just going to be a small, $5 giveaway. I think that's appropriate. $5 for the Final Four. If you can correctly guess who is going to be in the Final Four. It's not going to be who's the closest, but it's going to be whoever guesses the Final Four correct. I will give you $5. That is happening on this channel. So make sure to comment. I'm really curious to see who you guys feel are going to be in the Final Four. I'm probably going to do like a March Madness episode once all the conference tournaments are over and the actual bracket is out, because I love to study the bracket. So I will be getting my Final Four picks out here in the next week or two before the tournament. So I do want to hear from you guys about that. So definitely make sure to comment on that. And yeah, guys, that has been another episode of the Run a Bunch Sports Show. Cue the outro.